You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You remember this guy, Don Ennis, the ABC News editor who last May announced he had decided to transition to a woman? Well, he wanted to be called Dawn. He left his wife, Wendy, and started wearing a wig to work. Even changed his Facebook profile to Dawn. Well, the New York Post now reports after 3 months of living as a woman, Dawn was rushed to the hospital because he thought he was having a seizure and experiencing memory loss. The Post explains he blamed his wife for dressing him as a woman and thought the year was 1999. Now the 49-year-old says his memory has returned, and while he remembers changing genders and taking hormones to become a woman, he now says he's not transgender at all. He's back to living as Don, using the men's room, and he even wrote an email to colleagues, "I am now totally, completely, unabashedly male in my mind, despite my physical attributes." At least for now, anyway.
Hello and welcome to Shalom, Hartford. Before Bruce Jenner became Caitlyn Jenner, he was noticed for winning a gold medal at the Montreal Olympic Games in 1976. He then went on to be the Wheaties cereal poster boy, plus he became a Kardashian, he became rich, he became famous, and then he became Caitlyn Jenner, a transgender. Is that a noun? Is that an adjective? Enter Don Ennis. Now, before Don Ennis became Don Ennis, he was a producer at the Today Show, Good Morning America. He worked at CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, and multiple television shows. In fact, he even garnered a few Emmys along the way. And he earned a six-figure salary. Now, not so much. What happened? I'm Pat Kazakoff. You're watching Shalom Hartford. Stay with me, and we're going to meet Don Ennis. What is transgender? Is it a noun? Is it an adjective? What is it?
Transgender is a word that we have used in our society and around the world to describe people who are born with an identity that is different from the one that was assigned to them by their doctors. So when a baby is born, the doctor holds the baby and says, "Hey, it's a girl," or "It's a boy." But what's not present, what's not apparent, is that gender is actually not what's between these babies' legs, it's what's between their ears. Transgender means someone who started out with the assignment of one gender, who identifies as another gender, or as no gender, and they transition from one gender to another.
You were a man and now you're a woman. Is there some sort of theme with people men who become women? Like, are you attracted to, like, what's the sexual orientation of these people?
Well, let's first establish two things. Number one, gender and sex are not the same thing. Sexual attraction is who you want to go to bed with. Gender is who do you want to go to bed as. That's a quote from a mentor of mine, an author and professor, Jennifer Finney Boylan, who's a transgender woman. The other thing is, I would say about Jenny that even when she presented herself as a man, she wasn't a man. Even when Caitlyn Jenner was going with the name Bruce Jenner, she wasn't a man. And I know you've said several times now that I was a man who became a woman. You were not a woman when you were a little girl, but you did become a woman over time. It just took me a lot longer. I was always a woman. What I didn't recognize, what I didn't understand, is I didn't accept or appreciate or know how to get from that person who I was presenting as to who I really am.
Did you know on some level that you were a woman?
Since I was 5 years old. But I called it different. I asked my mom, I said, "Why am I different from all the other boys?" She said, "Because you're special." I didn't know why I played with my sister's toys, or why my best friends were girls, or why I wanted to have 5 babies, or why I wanted to be a mommy, or why I wanted to wear certain clothes. I just knew that at a certain point, doing that caused me to be mocked, caused me to be ridiculed.
Were you bullied in school?
I was called fag and fairy and all the terrible words. I was beaten up. I also had a mouth on me, so I wouldn't just take it. I would lash back with my wit.
But somebody like Bruce Jenner, I don't.
Let's call her Caitlin, please.
I'm sorry.
No apologies to me. I'm just going to point it out.
No, point it out. So somebody like Caitlin Jenner, she wasn't bullied. She was the male epitome of male.
Exactly what she tried to present to the world. What she did was to overcompensate. A lot of people like myself go into law enforcement, the military. They're the toughest macho kind of guys you could ever imagine. But in their hearts, that's not who they want to be. They're trying to fit society's expectations. They're trying to lose themselves and prove to everyone, this isn't really who I am. I'm really a man.
But are you conscious of it at the time? Like,
Some people are.
Is that the narrative that you say to yourself? Do you say, I'm really a man?
What
I'm really a woman? I'm getting confused.
Well, depending. There are trans men who were assigned female at birth who, over time, reject femininity. They don't want to wear dresses. They don't want to be in girly things or feminine things. Some people call them tomboys. Some people are tomboys. Not every person who expresses an alienation with their gender is transgender. I think a lot of us don't feel comfortable with the society roles that we are assigned. But for people like myself, it goes beyond just having to fulfill a gender role. It's about looking in the mirror and seeing a mismatch between what you think of yourself and who you really are. The very first time that I saw what I could have been in the mirror, I saw the woman I am. I first thought that I'm my sister. And then the second thought was, I'm so happy. I feel self-esteem for the very first time.
How old were you?
48.
And what was that? Like, what was that moment? How did that moment look?
It looked like a person who was always female, just hadn't ever been revealed. I took a picture, and I showed it to my wife at the time, God rest her soul. And I said, this is a picture of what I might have been. And she looked at it and she said, oh my God. And I said, what? It's terrible, isn't it? I look terrible. She says, no, I never saw it before. You're a woman.
Why so long? Why did it take you so long to do that? Certainly you had other opportunities.
I had many opportunities. The problem was, again, there wasn't a thing called transgender when I was growing up. I was born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s, and anyone who showed any effeminate nature as a male was classified as either gay or other bad words that at the time were negative. Gay has become a positive word, but at the time, not so much, especially not in an all-boys school.
You went to a Catholic school.
I did. I was raised Catholic. I started finding, though, as I dated Catholic women, especially after high school, I seemed attracted to Jewish women. And my mother asked me, what is with that? Why do you like Jewish girls? And I said, well, it's because they're so outspoken. It's because they're so knowledgeable about who they are and what they are. And I love that. I wanted, in my own way, to know myself as well as I thought Jewish girls knew themselves.
Were you
what they
sexually
wanted.
attracted to Jewish girls?
I was told I was.
Well, you had 3 children. Something happened.
I will say this. Every girl I dated, up until my wife, which was in 1986 in college, every girl I ever dated always said the same thing to me. You know, I like you. I find you attractive to look at, but there's something different. I just don't know what. I feel like I'm talking to my girlfriend.
But that's not uncommon.
I
mean, they wrote a book about it. Men are from
Mars.
Men are from Mars. Women are from
But
Venus.
this wasn't just about us being different. This was about women finding me to be less than masculine in their engagement with me. They didn't feel attracted to me sexually, is what I'm trying to say.
But you were attracted to them?
I was.
You did the job.
No, I was really very, very. No, I.
You didn't do the job.
I didn't make love to a girl until I met my wife. I was very shy about that. I thought holding hands was all I really needed. I wanted someone to hug. I didn't recognize the whole idea of sex being important. My wife fell in love with me. I fell in love with her. Sex was the next natural step. I didn't say she pushed me into it, but I was doing what I thought was expected. Yes, we had 3 children when we finally did get married. And in every way, I love them, and they're the gift that God gave me.
Well, let's explore the Jewish business.
Please.
Because this is Shalom Hartford. So tell me your feelings. You have 3 Jewish children.
Well, we had a conversation very early on, before I even proposed, in which I said, when Catholic people have a baby, you get baptized. And she said, well, not right away. I said, well, a month or so. And she said, when Jewish women give birth, if the woman is Jewish, they're automatically Jewish. And I said, well, that's it. Done deal. We're going to raise Jewish children. She says, do you want to raise them in both? I said, no, I would not want to do that. No judgment on people who do decide to do both. Interfaith is much more common than it used to be. However, I find that having a solid, steady, traditional bedrock understanding of faith with a little sprinkling of understanding of Christianity mixed in, I think it helps.
So you like the Jewish business?
I would never convert. It's not my thing. I was raised Catholic. I'm still Catholic. Catholic Church doesn't exactly look at me as someone they accept or welcome, but my parish does. St. Timothy's in West Hartford is completely accepting, and I'm loving going to church. I go there every Sunday. The difference will be, though, I would never wear a sign or try to attract attention to say, I'm transgender and I'm Catholic. Whereas at Congregation Beth Israel, where I've been a member now, going on 13 years, I don't have to wear a sign. I'm accepted automatically. I'm accepted not because I blend in, not because people think, oh, that's a woman over there. No, it's because people know that that's the transgender Catholic woman who's raising her Jewish children.
And that works.
It works out great for us. And my 2 oldest have been bar and bat mitzvahed. My 3rd, youngest, is preparing for his bar mitzvah. I've been welcomed by both the rabbis and the lay congregation.
So the Jewish business works for you.
And they asked me to lead the adult learning committee.
Okay. So let's go back a little bit to the transgender business.
Okay. A lot of business.
There's some business here. There's a lot of confusion as how to become transgender.
You don't become transgender. You
Okay.
are.
Well, what
Or you
about
aren't.
what about the physicality of it? What about the medical part of it?
Okay.
I've heard stories that people take estrogen supplements. I've heard that there's some surgery involved. What is involved?
I'd be happy to answer those questions with the caveat that, if you don't mind me saying so, tell me if you've asked any of your guests if they've had a pap smear or how their prostate exam went.
No, I have not.
And would you?
No, I would not.
So then be mindful that when you talk to a transgender person, you're asking about something as personal as those issues.
So I'm hearing by your answer that you've been asked that before.
Myself and every single transgender person on the planet.
So I'm not uncommon in asking those questions.
And it's perfectly fine to ask me because I'm open about this. I want people to understand. But you have to respect the fact that some people just don't want to talk about their
So in
genitals.
other words, don't do, Pat, you did it now, but don't do it again.
I would say that the first question, second question, or third question should never be, so what's the deal? Do you have surgery? Or do you take hormones? Because I don't get involved in what you do to be who you are, and I think it's respectful to not do the same to others. As
So
for your
tell me
question,
what
though-
you want to tell me.
Well, as for your question, because I think it is important that people understand, there's a physical transition, there is the mental transition. There's 2 kinds of transition going on. The first one is you have to accept in your mind that what you were assigned at birth is not what you want to be. So you have to make a mental commitment to say, I need to make a change. Some people will do that just by, the word is cross-dressing. I'm not a big fan of cross-dressing because it's a kink, it's a fetish, it's for thrills. This is for straight guys who want to get a thrill, sexual thrill. That's not what transgender people do. We do adopt the clothing of the gender we want to be, but it isn't cross-dressing as much as it is trying to find ourselves.
Well, you look good.
Thank you
I
very
have
much.
to say.
Thank
I
you.
love your hair. I love your nails.
I try to put myself together.
I love your purple. So you did a good job. You did a good job.
There are other people who don't want to go this route. They decide to be gender nonconforming. Or there are women who bind their breasts because they really feel that they are men. They are transgender men, and they don't want to present that feminine figure.
So they wear compression
shirts, or they put bindings. I'll be very honest. For 5 years, I bound my breasts because I was not ready to be Dawn Ennis. I was still Donald or Don Ennis. And
So what made you ready?
the fact that I could not live anymore pretending to be someone I wasn't. I decided.
Was there a cataclysmic event?
I went to a friend's party in Washington, D.C., January of 2013, 4 years ago this month. And I said to my friend who was transitioned, she was out as a transgender woman, who started when I started. We saw the same gender therapist in 2008. I said, here you are 5 years later, and you've gotten everything you wanted. A big job, a successful life, you still have your family. I want that. That's what I want. I'm still in the closet. I'm still in hiding. And I decided that night, back in my hotel room, that I would, by my birthday, make this happen. It turned out to be in May because of work.
So you talked about what you wanted. You wanted that family, the children, and you wanted the successful job.
I wanted to keep everything.
You wanted to keep everything.
But I wanted to still be me. And I thought, how fair is it that I can't be me with my family, with my job? I should be able to be me everywhere.
Let's talk about what happened. The first big thing that happened was the job. ABC.
Well, they first were very accepting. Let's be very honest. They were the best. They sent me flowers. They gave me a standing ovation. There was cards. There were emails.
That was when you first became
When I first
woman.
came out as Dawn.
Okay.
Yes, and I came out as myself.
Now let's for the listening viewing. You were a producer.
I was actually from before. I was an assignment editor. I was a producer, but I had a job as the assignment editor. I was in charge of national coverage, ABC News and Good Morning America.
So now they're sending you flowers. They're standing ovation. Then what happens?
Well, we decided to put off telling the kids about me because the kids were in school. We didn't want to upset them.
And you were working in New York.
I was. So I moved out under the guise of, Daddy's going to move closer to work. And it wasn't because Daddy wanted to. I'd been commuting for 7 years. But my wife felt, if you're going to be a woman, you have to be out of my house. And I'm not going to kick the mother of my children to the curb. I'm going to leave. So as much as I thought I was going to be able to transition and live at home, I accepted her dismissal, and I found an apartment.
In Danbury, I think.
Danbury it was. My coming out did not go unnoticed, and the New York Post did a big article about me. And they sent reporters to my block, and they went knock, knock, knock on all the neighbors' doors, asking them if they loved the tranny next door, asking if they knew about the tranny next door, ambushing my child as he comes home from school, hiding in a bush, going to my mother's house, going to my mother-in-law's house, going to my sister's house. They treated me as if I was some kind of scandal. This was 2013, before Caitlyn Jenner, before a lot of people were accepting and understanding what transgender is. And I get it. Some people still don't understand it or accept it. They don't even tolerate it. What matters about that time was my family supported me. My friends supported me. My company supported me.
What does that mean, the company supported you? Because eventually, not so much.
Well, those headlines didn't go away. I was getting more headlines than Diane Sawyer, and they didn't like that too much. Nothing is worse than getting your face on the front page of the New York Post, and that happened to me because at a certain point, I had this sort of like circuit breaker go off. I had a brain seizure, and my seizure caused me to forget 14 years of my life.
You say a brain seizure. Is that a diagnosis that you're giving yourself?
No, I went to St. Francis Hospital. Wendy, my wife, found me to be lost in a haze of 1999, where I thought I was a man with breasts, wearing a wig, a driver's license that has a different name on it than my own name, and living in a Connecticut house that I didn't remember. She was worried. I was worried. They admitted me for this seizure. They diagnosed me with something called transient global amnesia. Basically, let's put it this way. Everything was going great. My job accepted me, my family accepted me, work accepted me. I was happy, but I had lost something. I lost the love of my wife, my beloved, the most important person in my world. Something in my head said, I'm not ready. I eventually gained back all my memories within a week or two, except for the part about me transitioning. So what did I do? I went back to work as Don, as the man. And people were like, what? What is this?
They weren't ready for that.
They actually sent me home the next day and sent me in for psychiatric examination.
Well, look at it from an objective point of
view.
Is there something about this that's weird?
It's weird just to not feel as if you're in the right body. It feels weird to know that I should be living as a woman when I'm wearing the clothes of a man and being called by a male name. That's weird. transitioning, for people who don't understand it, is weird.
So what should have the television station done?
Well, I'll
What
tell you
should
what,
have they-
never let me come back as Dawn, because that was my mistake. My mistake was I should have taken more time to figure this shit out. I was in the position where I was the sole breadwinner for my family, and I felt enormous financial pressure to earn money. If I'm not working, I'm not earning money. So even as Dawn, I felt I had to go. But it was a big mistake, because within a month, my memories came flooding back, and I realized I had put myself deeper in the closet than I had ever been. And what happened more than anything was I got ridiculed. I was shamed. Even my strongest allies were doubtful of my sanity, because who does that, go back and forth?
Well, it's crazy.
Except here's the difference. Guess what? Caitlyn Jenner did the same thing. Most transgender people do the same thing.
Go back and forth?
Exactly, except for one thing. They do it before all the publicity. My problem, more than anything, was I was doing it in the public eye. I had the New York Post following me around. If I had been able to do what most people do, which is to experiment, to understand, to explore privately within the space of my friends and family, I don't think there would have been this brouhaha.
So what could you have done differently regarding the job? Because you took a big hit.
Yeah, I did.
That's a big, big hit.
And they eventually decided, after a month of me being me again, when I came out, they fired me. They fired me on a, not gender thing, because that's illegal. They fired me on, oh, she showed up for work late. She said things that someone in the office was writing down for us.
Well, did you show up late?
Yeah, I was late. I was late. I was traveling 120 miles to work, and there were storms and construction. Did I show up as late as other people? No. Did I show up later than other people? No.
Did you say weird things? You said they were writing everything you were saying?
I think in every job, there are times when you think you're not being heard, that you might say something that the company would not like to hear or see written down, that people say. When you have someone you want to get rid of, you make sure that there's someone who writes these things down so you can then use them against them when they get in trouble. In no normal place would I have been fired for being late a time or two, or for saying things that probably I shouldn't have said. But no, in my case, they had an agenda and a mission, and they succeeded. So I was...
So you paid a heavy, heavy price.
Except for one thing. I did find a way to work my way back. I negotiated a termination settlement, which I can't discuss, but the termination settlement gave my family a little bit of funding, and on top of that, the company agreed that I could be rehired, and it changed termination to resignation.
So have you been rehired?
I have not attempted to go work for a company that would initiate such proceedings against me. I elected to become a different kind of journalist. I'm an advocacy journalist. I write for LGBT websites, and I make videos for them. And my job is to tell the stories of people in my community to people in my community and others who may be interested.
Well, I'm listening to you, and I can see, even when you talk about ABC and NBC, the Today Show, I can see that you have like fire and like you loved it. I can see enthusiasm.
I lived,
you
breathed.
Loved it.
I was good at it too. But
do you love this?
I wish this paid the bills. I'm living and feeding my kids on poverty line income right now.
So is that worth it? Is that worth it?
Well, I tried getting a job that doesn't have anything to do with LGBT or journalism. I tried getting a job at supermarkets in town. I tried applying for jobs in healthcare. I've tried a lot of different places, and I keep not getting hired. I think the main reason for that is, if you Google Dawn Ennis, you will see some of my writings, but you also see the stories in the newspapers about me being fired, about me going back and forth. So I have an automatic curse or a black cloud that flies over my head, and one person told a friend of mine who went to bat for me, I don't want her drama in my newsroom.
Is it worth it? Was it worth it?
I think living is worth it. I think being alive is worth it. And I couldn't be alive anymore as him.
Do you think that you could ever go back to being him for practical reasons? For practical reasons, you say that you're almost at poverty line.
Well, here's what happened.
That's major.
When my wife was diagnosed with cancer, on the phone in Los Angeles where I was working, because it's the only job I could find, I said to her, name it. What is it I can do? Anything. I'll get on a plane right now. No, I don't want you coming back right now. Well, what can I do? What can I do about this cancer diagnosis? She said 2 things. Promise me if I die, you won't take the children to Los Angeles. I said, done. No way. They're going to lose their mother? I would never do that, and I don't want you to die, so this is not going to happen. What's the second thing? She said, Sophie's bat mitzvah is coming up. I need you to be Don for that. I said, okay.
And that's what you did.
It killed me.
And that's what you did.
I did it because it was my promise to her, and it made her happy for one day. But it killed me. I felt like I was lying to God. I went to the rabbi in tears and said, please help me get out of this. I can't do this. And he said, you made a promise. There's a word for this. Do you remember what you told me it was?
No.
It's a Hebrew or Yiddish word.
Well, I know mitzvah.
The mitzvah is the one I said.
Mitzvah,
but you said something else.
What is it, a promise?
A promise or a commitment that you make. When your wife says, you know, I think this dress looks great.
Shalom bayit.
There you go.
Shalom bayit, keep the peace.
That's what I did.
We've been talking to Dawn Ennis, and she certainly is keeping the peace, Shalom bayit, but she paid a huge price for it. And she seems rather happy. And she told me, and I'm telling you, don't ask a transgender what they did to become transgender. I think it's not such a good idea. Thank you very much. You've been watching Shalom Hartford.